The Batman comes out today. Can you tell I'm excited? What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another King of Fighters All-Star video. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the Inferno difficulty against Omega Rugal. I'm going to go through a couple of different options that you could use in order to take this guy down, but more importantly, we're going to be putting him through the Boss Syndrome Nameless test. And yeah, spoiler alert, you guys, Boss Syndrome Nameless always wins. But before we get into all of that and more, make sure if you guys haven't already done so, you smash that like button and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get into the video. Cue the intro. Alright, you guys, now before we go ahead and get into the solo run using Boss Syndrome Nameless, I just want to go ahead and talk about some general observations when it comes to the Inferno difficulty against Omega Rugal. So first and foremost, what you're going to need to know about the Inferno difficulty here is you are going to need either bleed and or poison for your preferred dots here in order to weaken that shield and drop it quicker. So when it comes to that, you're going to have two ways of thinking about this. You're either going to want to go ahead and err on the side of a team of characters that are going to have those preferred dots, or if you're somebody that's a veteran that has a lot of these top tier uber characters fully maxed out, then in general you're not going to need me to tell you this. You can pretty much just use whatever you got and just blow through it. You're going to notice in the top ranks of my guild, for example, almost nobody outside of the fact that they're using Omega Rugal, which in general most people are going to use Omega Rugal at this point just for that overwhelming damage with the shield down scenario. Most people are not even worrying about the preferred dot in general at the top because they have these characters so fully built up. So you're going to notice a lot of the usual suspects here, a lot of the same Boss Syndrome characters, a lot of the same SS characters, you know, in general, pretty much just your uber tiers. But if you get to the bottom here, you start to notice another strategy that is very important and we're going to talk about momentarily, which is using strikers that are going to have one of those preferred dots. In general, that is typically going to be your poison strikers. So let's take a look here real quick. I'm going to show you guys a couple of different examples of characters that I've used so far in solo scenarios, and in general you don't need to worry about soloing this guy because I know 1.25 billion damage is quite a bit for a lot of players out there. And in general, if I'm being honest, if you're somebody brand new to the game or you're even an intermediate that lacks a bunch of these top tier uber characters, in general right now this might be a pipe dream to even be able to 2-key this, so you may end up just having to wait for the Street Fighter V collaboration, because chances are once we get that collaboration, even though we don't necessarily know exactly what is going to be involved when it comes to the kits for those characters yet, you are probably going to end up pretty well set for this mode once those characters drop, as long as you invest in characters that are going to be good for it, and I bet you that ends up being the case. But the reason why you would need to get to 1.25 billion damage in general is going to of course be because this is going to be a pool for the rewards that is going to boast having both a Boss Syndrome generic memory, and then of course when you scroll all the way down here, as we scroll and we scroll, you're going to notice there's also a SS generic memory. So this is a must-play mode every single day in my opinion, because you want that opportunity at those memories. But of course, like I said, if you're a brand new player, chances are you're going to have a very difficult time even getting close to that. So don't feel bad, just wait for Street Fighter V and save, save, save. Right now we're at a bit of a drought when it comes to banners as far as what would be relevant here. I've already pointed out Omega Rugal, but the problem with Omega Rugal, like I said, is really you want to overclock him for the damage, because he's usually going to be a character that's for a low shield scenario against this guy, because his shield shred not necessarily the greatest, or he's going to mostly be there for a full shield down scenario, specifically for that ridiculous awakening rotation that he has. So when it comes to examples of characters though that you could use as options here that I've played around with and had a lot of luck with, you have characters such as Ino here. You know, with Ino, this is a character that is going to have poison on her kit. She's going to have a really, really good time against him. She doesn't take hits very well, and in general, Inferno difficulty does do a lot more damage than even Lunatic, so you are going to probably need to kind of play her with a team to kind of bounce her in and out, because she's not going to be able to survive a fight. So you either are going to have one of two ways of approaching it. You're either going to be able to solo using your favorite maxed out, fully overclocked character, or in general, if you're anybody anybody below there, you're going to probably just need to use a team of characters, at which point this is going to be a really good option. Other characters that are an extremely good option are going to be the Boss Syndrome Original Zero. This is a character that I'm sure you guys have seen a ton of people use against this thing. He is an absolute monster here. Kind of the same rules apply though, even though he does have a little bit better survivability here than even Eno does. You still probably are going to want to use him on a team unless you have him fully maxed out. If you have him fully maxed out with the proper stones and everything, he's probably going to do just fine as far as being in a solo capacity for the most part, but still he is going to not be able to take very many hits. So again, probably best that you use a full team with him, but he is an incredible option. Absolutely annihilates this guy without very much of a problem. And then as far as bleed characters go, I have went ahead and played around with Boss Syndrome Gainitz as well. He does extremely well here as well. This is a character that has a ton of multi-hits. Of course he has bleed, so he isn't a poison character, but as far as bleed characters go, of which there aren't a ton of super good ones in the game, this guy right here really is very good for this. I've tried him out myself and had a lot of really good luck. Otherwise, if you're a super budget player and you just don't have any of these characters that are going to have the preferred dots, you're going to want to lean on strikers. Like I said, here's a few examples down here of really good strikers that are going to be very good for this type of thing. And the reason why, if you scroll down here and take a look at the striker ability, such as for my Halloween Gatecrasher Alice here, she is going to be able to inflict poison for 7 seconds. So that's super beneficial, obviously, for this mode. If you take a look here at Lynn, he's another character that is going to have awesome poison on his striker ability of 7 seconds. And then finally, another good option here is going to be an easy free to play one, which is going to be the Halloween Night Shang-Fi, and she is going to be able to apply it for 10 seconds. So there's a lot of different characters that you can use here. You can play around with it. I'm not going to go through all the different characters you could use. Like I said, any of your uber tier characters like your Terry, your Dark Ash, your Nameless, you know, your Omega Rugals of the world, all these different characters that you would see in the uber tier are of course going to be the best options just because they make it so brain dead and easy. But if you need some options, just play around with your account, look through what you got. Some strikers that are going to have the preferred dot might be best for you if you don't have a bunch of these characters that we've already shown off, and there are plenty other options. Like I said, I just don't have time to go through all of them. But in general, outside of the increased damage that he's going to be doing, he doesn't change up the way he rotates things very often. He's pretty much status quo to what we've expected to see from Omega Rugal in Guild Raid before, so not anything too crazy. Now, let's talk about what I do, because I don't worry about any of that. Because you guys already know, I've already told you this, if you have Boss Syndrome Nameless, you have everything in this game. So when it comes to my Boss Syndrome Nameless, you guys have probably seen plenty of the videos I've cut on this character, so you probably already know the build, but just so you guys know what I'm working with, this is going to be the build here. Now, of course, Idle Set is going to be the set that I always recommend for him, and then I also am using the crit options for the Boss Syndrome characters here as far as my option cards are concerned. And then when it comes to my stones, you're going to be able to see here, I have the Volume 5 Circle Attack stone there, I have the Volume 1 Square stone, and then of course I have the Volume 5 Hex stone, and then down here I do have these guys that are Starlight stones, but unfortunately I just don't have perfect stones for him right now. But these are going to be double attack for defensive type fighters, so this is going to just be more stats, of which he definitely benefits from. So in general, this is what I do. I've told you guys before, at this point, whenever they release new content, it's one of those things where I think to myself, can this new content pass the Nameless test? I don't think can Nameless pass the new content test, because it's kind of like what Rorschach said. I'm not locked in here with them, they're locked in here with me. So at the end of the day, when it comes to Nameless, this character, he just doesn't care. So, I mean, it's just going to be one of those things, the amount of multi-hits, the amount of damage, the sustainability, because again, a theme I've kind of gone over in this video already is going to be survivability and the potential of needing to just use a full team or try to do this on a couple of keys if you're somebody that can't do it with your characters in one run because, you know, whether they can't survive it or whether they just can't do enough damage for the one key. This guy here, He can do it all. He can survive without much of any effort. And honestly, you guys, in my opinion, this guy is still just an absolute god in this game. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the solo run using Boss Syndrome Nameless as we end this video. I hope you all found it informative and enjoyable. Let me know in the comments section what team you prefer to use against this guy, because like I said, there's a ton of options. It's just going to be one of those things where, because it is going to be so much damage that you need to put up, you're probably going to need quite a bit in order to be able to do this with a 1 key if you're somebody that is going to be a newer or intermediate player. So it's probably a bit of a pipe dream. However, like I said, don't feel too bad. Just wait for Street Fighter V and you'll be just fine, I promise. But anyway, you guys, I'm going to let you enjoy the solo run. That's going to be today's video. If you found it enjoyable, smash that like button and subscribe. And before I go, make sure you go see the Batman. Peace.
手に